Welcome back to the Pat and Play podcast. This is episode 4. I'm your host, Tim Geschwin, and I'm joined today by two familiar faces. Welcome back to the podcast, Chervon and Jude. Hello, guys.
What's up? What's up?
Hey.
And welcome. A new face to the podcast, Matthew Masciani. You have finally taken up the call. Come on the Pat and Play podcast and talk some nonsense like Balin did in the last episode. That's what we're looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to some backup. As you can see, Matthew is an Arsenal fan, so I am no longer alone in the wilderness here, surrounded by rivals. Matthew, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, guys. That's the first time you've used my government name. Most people call me Mash.
Welcome to the podcast, Mash.
Great to be on.
Everyone's going to say Mash from now on. Yeah, no more government name.
Let's go.
Mash, day job. What do we do for the day job?
Day job, software engineer at AWS. And yeah, football is a huge part of my life. It's basically been there since the beginning. My dad's was a Pirates fan, and so I thought it would be funny if I was a Chiefs fan. But yeah, now that I have a daughter, I realize the pain I must have caused him. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. It was a mistake.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Mash. If Leah does become a Spurs fan in the future, I'm going to be pretty sad. After buying her a little Arsenal onesie, I was hoping to sort of create a definite fork in the road there where she didn't get a decision. But hey, people are supposed to have individual freedom or whatever that means. Let's start off with our hot take. So we're going to go around the table and just express in a minute or less, basically, the thought of the weekend that comes to mind, or the thought of the game week. I'll kick off just so that the unprepared at this table can think of one on the fly. My hot take for this weekend is that I clearly don't know anything about football, and City are clearly going to do a lot better than I was expecting from the season preview in the last podcast, and that I wish I could go back and remove that shit from the internet.
I respect that you addressed that. Thank you, Tim. I saw
Reinders, and I just saw my vision of Pep having a difficult season crumble in front of my eyes. This is not going to happen. City are going to be really good again. And I think probably the end of that hot take is I think it's going to be a very, very competitive title race with every team except for City, including City, having an issue or something to grow past to get to the point where you're at that sort of 95-point pace or whatever we've got used to over the last few years. So, yeah, my hot take is I think this is going to be a much closer season than I had envisaged, and City are going to be a lot better than I thought. Yeah, that's going to be my hot take. Chervon, why don't you go next?
I think you kind of stole my hot take, but anyway, I'll switch to a different one. I think Nuno Espirito Santos is going to win Manager of the Season.
Ooh.
Yeah, I rate him really, really high. I rated him really high when he was at Wolves. I just enjoy the football that he plays. I enjoy the spirit that he leads the team with. I enjoy the players that he picks and his vision, his tactics, and I see it now with Forest as well. And I really, really genuinely think that he's going to do far better than we anticipate. I think he's going to lead Forest to new heights, and probably next season be snatched up by a bigger team. Because one, I don't think that Spurs are going to stick with Thomas. So I think he might end up going back.
Thomas the tank engine.
Bro.
Thomas the Frank engine. Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Thomas. I think he was brilliant at Brentford, but I don't think Spurs are going to stick through with him.
So your hot take is Nuno is going to be manager of the season. Okay. All right. Mash, do you want to jump in with your hot take?
Sure. Thomas the Frank engine is sorry. He's so good, dude. I'm definitely. Yeah, I don't think that's fair. He's so good, and I think he showed it this weekend. He coming out of a 3-0 loss, 3-0 win, he still wasn't happy with like the team's rhythm. I think that man is going to take Spurs places. He might not win a title, but that's not what they're about. So I don't know. I think they'll stick with him for a while. My hot take is that Chelsea are going to be in the title run all the way till the end. I don't think they'll win, but I think they're going to be at least mathematically able to win until like week 38. I know they drew this week, but that I still think that they have the quality to fight to the end. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my hot take was about City. Chervon's hot take was about Forest. Your hot take was about Chelsea. And that neatly segues to Jude.
I was so sad that I wasn't on the last episode where everyone was mentioning their seasonal hot takes, because I have one, and I think Victor Gyökeres is going to flop at Arsenal. The reason why I think so is because when Arsenal, they played Man United this weekend, and Man United kind of took the game to them. There was a lot of space to run into for the Arsenal attackers, but I think when Arsenal go up against a team that will apply a low block, I don't think that Victor Gyökeres is the striker to have in those situations where balls are crossed in and they find his head. I know he scored a header in pre-season.
Thank you, Jude.
But I don't think he needs that space to run into and take advantage of. So yeah, that is my hot take.
Whew. It's pretty spicy, that one. I'd say that's like that's two chili icons, dude, on the menu.
I was so nice to your team. I take it back. Chelsea they're gonna suck. They're gonna bomb out in week 3. I'm changing my hot take.
Ask Jude when Cole Palmer last scored an open play goal in the Premier League. It's when I turned 31 in January. Anyway, moving swiftly along from hot take, I had to get that little jab in there, and then no one was allowed to come back on it. A little stat throw out. I think those were some pretty hot takes, to be honest. And it was interesting, no one went and gave a hot take about their own club's performance this weekend. It was all a bit jabby to the side. Interesting. Cool. Let's jump into our review for the game week. We're going to start off with Arsenal versus Man United, which was billed to be the game of the weekend. I don't think in the end it turned out to be a game of the weekend for the neutral. I don't think it was a fantastic game to watch. It was nerve-wracking for anyone who was supporting either side, I think, as it always is. It was to be honest with you, I'm a little sad it happened on game week 1. After watching the game, I do feel like both teams were so exploratory in their style and their sort of gelling with the players. Everything just felt a little bit new, and I'd love to repeat this game in game week 5 and see what the Arsenal with the new players actually looks like, to see what Amorim with the new players actually looks like when we're both in the swing of things. But I'm gonna, before I give my take on Arsenal and Man United and what I think about the game, I wanna see what you folks think. Mash, why don't we start with you? How do you feel about how the game went? I know the result was ideal, but maybe the performance slightly less so. Thoughts and feelings?
Yeah. So the result was good, and I don't think we were like social media has been really annoying, because I go online and I see everyone saying Arsenal didn't deserve to win, And if there's anything like watching Arsenal has done to me, it's made me eat the like dose of reality that in a fair game of football, the team that wins is the team that deserves to win. Like I've watched amazing Arsenal squads in my life play and not win. And I always told myself like, they deserved to win. And then I've eventually learned that the team that wins is the one that deserves to win. So I get very upset when I see that online, and it triggers me. But I do acknowledge that United played the more attacking game. They definitely looked like the most likely to score, but I think we had the best last touch. Like everyone speaks about last touch in the attacking sense, like the one who puts the ball away or whatever. But like our defensive last touch was amazing. Like Ben White had last itch tackles, Saliba last itch tackle, Gabriel. Like we defended to the last second of a play, and I think it made the difference. And I believe we deserved to win. And I'm really proud of my team for like showing up on a day that wasn't our day and taking the points. To give United credit, Cunha made Rice look like he was playing on lag. Mbeumo was so strong. Their attack was immense. But I think our defense won out. And that's my
as is often the case with football. If you have a really good defense, sometimes you can nick a win. Jude, what did you think about the game?
I think it was, for a neutral, it was kind of meh. The one thing I did take from this game is that Man United are going to do a lot better than they did last season, like a lot better. I think the signings that they've made almost make an immediate impact. Mash is talking about the performances of Cunha and Mbeumo specifically. I think once they start to gel better, they can be a problem. And I think Man United were a bit unlucky with some of the chances that they didn't put away. There was also the tackle on Cunha. I think maybe VAR should have looked at it a bit more towards the end. I think it was Saliba that tackled him. For me, if that happens anywhere else on the pitch, that's a foul. And I think Man United are unlucky not to get anything from that situation. But at the end, as Mash said, the one who wins deserves to win. The most important stat is the scoreline. And it's unfortunate that it came from... if Calafiori didn't hit it in, I think it was going to go in anyway. It was such a poor fist from the keeper. But yeah, I think the result is the result. Well done to Arsenal. But as I said, main takeaway is that Man United are going to be a lot better this season than last season.
Yeah, they really looked impressive, I must say.
So my thoughts are, I actually really enjoyed the game. I thought it was very open. I enjoyed it as a neutral, I suppose. I loved the attacking force from United, which tastes disgusting coming out of my mouth. I really thought that they had a big threat, especially in the first 20 minutes. Their new guys, Cunha and Mbeumo, like, wow. Cunha's shot that hit the post was incredible. I do honestly think Arsenal were lucky with that goal, because I do feel like the goalkeeper was impeded. I've seen stills of Saliba holding... can't remember his name. I just can't pronounce it correctly. Man United's new goalkeeper, holding his arm up. But at the same time, I do think as a goalkeeper, you need to be stronger. You need to be more in command of your goal to accept a corner coming in when you know Arsenal are so strong at corners, and be flat-footed in the first place, as opposed to on your toes and ready to bounce, and allow yourself to be bullied in the goals is not good enough. And I think United need to actually look at that and strengthen in their goalkeeping area. I don't know.
How can both those things be true? Like, how can you say How can you say the keeper was too weak, but also he was
Because I think he
impeded, right?
allowed
Like,
himself to become impeded. I think if he was stronger, Saliba wouldn't have been able to bully him.
but it was a foul in your
I
eyes.
think
It was
yes.
unlucky goal.
And I think he was impeded, yes. And I think Arsenal were lucky to score from it. But I also think that if he was stronger, he wouldn't have allowed Saliba to touch him in that way. Because if you look at a little bit later, similar corner from United, whereas Raya was much stronger and he also had a defender on him, but because he was stronger, he didn't allow himself to get bullied. So he punched it out and it was cleared. That's what I'm saying. So I do think in an instance like this, goalkeepers are generally a protected species. And I do think that he was impeded. But at the same time, I think he invited the impeachment.
Right.
What is it?
Okay. So you don't think it was a foul? I think I misinterpreted you. Are you saying it was a foul?
I'm saying that Arsenal were lucky that VAR didn't rule it as a foul, because I think it can be seen as both ways.
But do you think it was a
Yes.
foul? Okay. Then I don't understand you at all. Like, okay.
No, please explain. What don't you understand? Maybe I can explain it better for you.
Because you see Raya with strength as part of the game, but then you see the weakness of the keeper, United's keeper, as not part of the game.
I'm saying that if he was stronger, he wouldn't have been impeded and he wouldn't have allowed Saliba to bully him.
So if you're weaker, you get fouled,
Yes.
is what you're saying. Like, okay, so then we must just put a bunch of skinny people in our team so that anyone who pushes them, we win a free kick.
I'm not saying
essentially.
Arsenal need to be stronger. I'm saying United's goalkeeper needs to be stronger.
I think
No, you're saying he doesn't need to be stronger because he was fouled and it was unfair.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You're not understanding me. I'm saying it was a foul, but if he was stronger, he wouldn't have allowed Saliba to bully him.
I think it's
The way
I think
he
it's
approached-
neither. I think it's neither actually in this case, because I think Arsenal have over the last few seasons, and this is why they've brought in the new rule around not doing too much on corners, or they're gonna penalize it. It's definitely to stop Ben White and what he was doing over the last few years of basically
That guy's naughty.
he just marks the keeper. And I think they've decided that's not okay. But I think Saliba was smart in a sense. And I was looking closely at what we'd do at corners, because it's a tactic, it's a strategy. Clearly, we value it very, very highly. And what Saliba did was he didn't mark the keeper and didn't stay in the keeper's zone until the last second. He was marking the person to his left, or tussling with the person to his left. And then at the last possible moment, while the ball is already in the air, he moves into the way. Now, you're right, Chervon, in the sense that a keeper who commands his space typically does the classic one is the keeper will push on the back of the player and then jump with the knee up. And the statement is clear. If you want to come and fight for this ball, it's gonna be painful. And I remember when we were growing up and playing football, this was also like a keeper strategy: is run, jump for the ball, lead with your knee up, so that if anyone's getting in between, it's gonna be harsh. And I gotta say, I think all in all, that one incident just highlights why they wanted Donnarumma so much.
I agree.
Against PSG, I think our corners looked like nothing. He was so commanding in his box. And yeah, I think I understand, Chervon, where you're coming from, in the sense of I thought VAR was going to look at it, not because I thought it was a foul, but because I think that the Premier League has started to re-referee games by VAR, and that it's not about what's proportional. And I know there's going to be people out there who are going to disagree with my take, which is leading into the Eze Chelsea situation, but it's not necessarily about what's in the rule book. The rule around the 1 meter in the wall or whatever, that started in 2019, but we've never seen it be applied. And so what feels a little odd is sometimes you just don't quite know where VAR is going to jump in and apply a rule, or how harshly they're going to apply it. So I did think we were lucky as well, but I didn't think it was a foul. So I think I maybe marry your two views into one. Shall we move to City? And where I had my very poor take in the season preview around City maybe not having signed the right players. I think, Chervon, you were last to jump in on the Arsenal game, so maybe I can start with you. The City game, Wolves got beaten up, basically. What do you think about the statement win and what that might mean for City's season?
City are back to be title contenders. I think they entered the season knowing that they really, really struggled last season. I mean, everyone knows that they really, really struggled last season, and they needed to start off with a statement. And I think that's exactly what they've done. Their signings are amazing. I don't know, but I don't really miss Kevin De Bruyne on the pitch as much. I think Haaland back scoring is amazing. And I think that's also one of the reasons why they struggled last season was Haaland was injured for so long and so was Kevin De Bruyne. And I think that Pep has really filled those gaps at the moment. Not to mention the fact that maybe, I don't know if you guys heard the rumors that when him and his wife were going through a divorce, that maybe his wife was the one that came up with tactics. Now him and his wife are together. They were at this concert together. So maybe the tactics are back and forth.
We all need our wives. It's my favorite narrative.
But what I do want to talk about, and yes, I will always bring the emotional side to it, in that game was Wolves' tribute to Diogo Jota and their Tifu was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also scared of it when Liverpool play Wolves, and both home and away. It's going to be a super, super emotional game. But I just think all the teams, their minute silence and their tributes to Diogo were incredible this weekend.
No, I agree. There was actually quite a few fan displays across English football this weekend, which I don't know. We're not known for our visual displays. We're known for vaguely coherent chants put together through 7 beers pre-game, and English football is not typically very visual, but I agree there were some absolute beautiful ones there.
There was a really stunning one for Unai Emery as well at the Villa game.
Yeah, I was thinking of that one as well. Absolutely banging. I do like that. Mash, what do you think of City?
Yeah. No. Let me not lie. Okay, so you had the unfortunate task of giving your hot take in public. Let me back you up because I didn't think they would be this hot. I didn't have them challenging for the title, if I'm completely honest. You said outside of top 4. I thought that was a bit far, but they looked scary. It's a bit hard because it's the first game of the season, right? It's hard to tell if Wolves were just poor and they've clearly been looted, right? So Wolves have been looted, and whether they've found good replacements is still a question. So it's hard to say now if Wolves were just really terrible or City again. But then if we talk about individual performance, I'm so bad with names, and you guys might find this out on the wall. Reinders. My God, what a player, and he's looking scary. Shirky came off the bench. I think that's the one we were all expecting to start and show flames, but even off the bench, he's given 20. We put Gyökeres on for 60 minutes, and man can't score. Shirky comes on for off the bench and shows that you can make an impact. So yeah, they're terrifying again. And I think Pep is back with his wife, and we should all try break them up again if we want to win a title. Yeah.
For me, Man City, they're going to be up there once again. Yeah, sorry, Tim, your hot take is not coming to fruition so early on. But I really like the look of Reinders, as Mash was saying, what a player he is. I mean, I wasn't familiar with his game. I know that's like a meme, that, but I wasn't familiar with his game.
Same.
And
Dude,
watching
same.
him play, it kind of feels like a regen of Gundogan in a way. And I think he's the perfect fit for that Man City Pep system, advancing forward and helping out the attack. But all in all, even Ryan Cherky also came on almost instant impact. I also didn't have Man City winning the title this season in my own sort of predictions. But after this weekend, everything we thought of before the season started has kind of now shifted. And it was a very strong performance from City, and yeah, they're gonna be tough to beat this season. Not like last season.
Yeah. Reinders is well, the Dutch midfield is looking quite something. To be honest,
Actually,
Yeah.
hey?
Frenkie de Jong next to Reinders, next to Gravenberch, next to you want to name Koopmeiners or Veerman or whoever's backing them up. They've got a fantastic midfield there, and I think Reinders was actually really good in for the Netherlands when he's played over the last, because Frenkie, of course, got injured for the last couple of major international tournos, and he was really good, but he's taken it to a next level. I think he's a fantastic signing. All right, enough City. Given we got no City fans, we don't have to chat any longer on those heathens. We've got Liverpool next, and it was actually the game that, of course, kicked off the game week. Game filled with some highs and some lows. Probably the game filled with the most off-pitch drama, I would say, of the weekend. I will say, I feel like I'm starting to have this sort of segment on this podcast where I get to sort of tell off fans every week. I can tell off another fan this week, this time a little closer to the pitch, but nonetheless, no less of an idiot. I think to have this season opener with people booing the Jota silence in the Community Shield, followed by the season opener for the Premier League involving a racist incident, which is not even like one guy in the crowd trying to hide it. The dude rolled his chair forward and then was racist in front of the whole world, and just was okay with being that open about it, that avant-garde. And I've got to say, is it a sign of the times, of how racial attitudes and racism is becoming more acceptable in the public domain, certainly in the UK? Unacceptable stuff, really. And I do want to just put that out there before we jump into the fun stuff, which is talking about the 4-2. I'm glad the police sorted that out in the middle of the game. I'm glad how the referee dealt with it. I think it was really, really maturely handled. And I think, wow, what a massive, massive character Semenyo is, because not just to receive the abuse, but then to channel it. And maybe it's infantile to think that it's directly correlated that he scores because of the abuse he receives. And maybe it's not quite that simple, but it's a beautiful narrative, isn't it? You know, you're going to try to disrespect me as a human being. Well, I'm going to go disrespect your club with a couple of absolute bangers. But yeah, look, it was a great game. Let's turn to the actual football, because I don't think we should give that too much oxygen. Just encourages these Muppets, doesn't it? Chervon, I think we should definitely turn to you first on Liverpool versus Bournemouth. What did you think?
Geez, my team loved to play with my emotions. I think we were sitting at like 39 minutes into the game, and I said to my mom, the Premier League has been here for 39 minutes, and all these excited butterflies that I have turned into such stress hormones that I can't deal. But this game kind of had a little bit of everything. It was super energetic, super open play. We were, again, very weak at the back. Slot made some not so clever substitutions at first, but I kind of understand now why he made them. I do think taking off Hugo and Frimpong and Perkins when he did might have been a little bit too soon, but I do understand that Hugo was suffering with cramp after 60 minutes. Frimpong pulled his hamstring. He was feeling it at halftime, so that's why he needed to come off. And I think Perkins was a bit too attacking, so we needed Robbo to come in and just solidify our defense a little bit. Even though after making the subs is when we conceded those two beautiful goals. Like Semenya, beautiful goals. I'm not going to deny it. And then Slot did the only thing he knew what to do. And I know when we get to 80 minutes and we're drawing, he would normally look at Diogo for coming on, but he pulled on Chiesa and Chiesa came on and scored. And then Salah did what Salah does, even though it was on his weaker foot and he had no right being on that side of the pitch. But Salah does what Salah does, and he made it 10 opening games in a row, which is unheard of. And he's now equaled with Andy Cole, I think, on 184 goals. I don't think he's going to catch Alan Shearer, to be honest, but I think that he's definitely cemented himself as a Premier League legend with that. The game was super emotional. I think even me as a fan, I took it for granted as to the players' mentality and their ability to ignore Diogo's little cubicle in the change room and just play the game. I do also believe that Diogo's family was in the crowd, so that might have added something. And I think no one needed Salah's goal more than Salah did for himself. I've never seen him get aggressive really in a match, and there was a bit of a push and a shove before corner was taken. And I think I felt the relief from him when he did score the goal, not just for himself, but in honor of Diogo. With his celebration. And then afterwards, when he was the only man left on the pitch, singing and crying, basically, because, at the end of the day, they are human. But I think Slot, to take it back to the football itself, Slot has a lot to go back to the drawing board. It also shows us how important Ryan is in our midfield, just to break up that attack. Because as much as Dom is there, Dom is with Jeremy running forward, it leaves that gap in the back, and then Dom's filling in there. But Dom gets a little creative sometimes, and he doesn't always fulfill the defensive moves as cleverly as Ryan does. So hopefully Ryan will be back soon after his suspension and the birth of his baby. And lessons learned. Players definitely need to get back up to full fitness, and we have to go again.
Mash, do you think that the birth of Ryan's child is going to affect his performance on the pitch based on your experience with a young child?
I think it can, but I don't think we can determine whether it's positive or negative until we see it. Like you get people like Max Verstappen, who I think can turn it into
rage,
motivation, and then you get other people who it nullifies their motivation.
Oh God!
So
sorry.
Yeah. Dude,
the only reason why I brought it up is because that's why he missed the Community Shield.
I was
because his baby was born the same night. So that's the only reason why I brought it up.
Do you, Mash, do you think Salah's going to be as effective this season? What were you feeling around the game? It's a bit end to end, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a bit end to end, and I think Liverpool have thrived off that in the past. And you can ask anyone I've chatted to, like about football with. I've probably been Liverpool's biggest non-Liverpool fan. Like I've loved them for the past 5 years, and in the past 5 years, I think they've always been my pick for who would win the league. I was probably right only once, right? Twice. But yeah, they are not the Liverpool that I backed. Like I think they are lacking this year, and I don't think Salah is going to bang as hard as he has been, and I think that their defensive I think they're going to struggle. It's hot take time. I think they're going to struggle defensively. I think they're making 2 new signings, right, in their defense. But I don't think that's how it works. Like, you don't just buy defenders and then you're like, oh, now I have a good defense. Like, I think defense is something you build up over time. Like, you develop a system that essentially defends you in the game. I don't think it's just like down to, oh, I've made 2 good signings and they're going to work tomorrow. So maybe it will come, but I don't think they have enough time to sort it out. Yeah, that's what I saw in the game. Well done for winning, though. Like, yeah.
Thanks.
I think it was quite an entertaining game. All in all, a lot of goals. In terms of just touching on the Salah point, and I think it was Barlin that mentioned it in the last episode. I think we're gonna start to see a drop off in terms of goal contributions from Salah. Does Trent leaving have something to do with that? Maybe. He was making a lot of the runs that he used to make, and Trent would find him, but wasn't really getting the service that he's used to. But I really enjoy a team scoring very late, a possible winner, and it was very cool to see Chiesa be the player to do it. I like it when it's limbs in the stadium, and then Salah wrapping it up, making sure of the result. But quite an entertaining game. I really enjoyed watching that as the opening game of the Premier League season.
Yeah, it really did set the right tone. There weren't enough results on the weekend like it, to be honest, where the result was in question and there was a high scoring game, a bit of to and fro, a bit of drama. I think it set the game week off on the right note. It's just a shame the game week didn't quite grab that energy and apply it in some of the other fixtures. Let's move to stocks rising and stocks falling. So for anyone who's wondering, why have I found myself on an economics podcast? Don't worry, you haven't found yourself in the wrong place. This is Pat and Play. We're still talking about football. The concept here is every week we will basically just run through a couple of clubs or players who stocks have either risen, which means in our estimation, their performance or where they're at is much higher than what we're anticipating. So the stock level that we value it at. And of course, stocks falling. So players or clubs that we think, in our estimation, may have taken a bit of a hit versus their value or where their stock was valued at the prior game week. So I'm going to kick off with a stock rising. My stock rising is Sunderland. I think I like Granit Xhaka, which is a decent starting place because, of course, he's going to be a really key part of that team this season. But I think watching Sunderland or catching up with the game afterwards, to be honest with you, I think most of the promoted clubs last season were quite underwhelming. And the gap between the Championship and the Premier League was really, really obvious. And it started to become a bit of a worry. Like, is the gap getting to the point where the promoted clubs are basically on a bit of a conveyor belt where they come up, they don't have the money to make the to breach the gap or to mind the gap or, make that delta in talent level and then go back down. And then it just becomes this sort of cycle. Sunderland looked like they may break it. And yes, they came up against one of the most uninspiring clubs in the Premier League right now. But yeah, for me, my stock rising is Sunderland. Mash, do you have a stock rising this week?
Yeah. Yeah, it's because maybe I miscalculated, but my stock rising is City, unfortunately. I didn't think they were that lethal.
City. Yeah.
That might be like me admitting that I was wrong, but they're my rising stock.
Jude, what have you got on your stocks? Where are you investing?
So I was gonna pick Sunderland because of the result that they had and the conveyor belt. I think this is the season that changes because there's a few regular Premier League teams that are uninspiring. West Ham being one of them. But if I were to choose another club to invest stocks in, I would go with Crystal Palace.
Nice.
Just because of what I saw against Chelsea, if they retain Eze, I know there's talks of him leaving. If they retain their players and the team that they had against Chelsea on Sunday, they can finish theoretically. I'm hoping my stocks will take me there in a European position. Whether that's Conference League or Europa League.
Oh,
not Champions League. The stocks aren't that big.
You're just saying they're going to win the Champions League this season.
No,
bro.
Chervon, where are you putting your money this week?
Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
I think Chris Wood is bang on the bunny. I don't know if you saw, there was one.
How is he still delivering?
There was one highlight where Forest actually didn't even have possession of the ball, and they were being attacked in midfield basically, and they lost possession. And Wood had already made the run, anticipating them winning the ball back, and he made the run, and the cross came in, and he scored. And I think that is just perfection for me.
What a player! Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good shout. I do like Forest as a stock rising this week. I had Spurs, City, Sunderland, Forest, Palace. So Spurs are the one that didn't get a mention. But let's go to stocks falling. Where are we taking our money and running? I'll kick off again. I'm going to steal it so that I get all the best picks. I'm going to take the survivors from the relegation battle last season. I'm going to take your Wolves and your West Ham as my stock falling. I think basically they're in real trouble, and if they don't fix up, the promoted clubs will put them back in the Championship. I basically think that the relegation battle might be a really interesting battle this season. I think the entire pack is going to get a little closer together this season, and I think the league will be better for it. Chervon, why don't we start with you? Where are you running away from? Who do you think is a stock falling this week?
I hate to say it, but Newcastle. I think with everything going on behind the scenes, the media, the way that they're running the narrative, it's untidy for me. I don't like the way the club are handling it. I don't like the way the players are handling it. I feel sorry for Eddie Howe. I've got another little soft spot for him. I loved him at Bournemouth. I think he was really, really, really finding his feet at Newcastle. But for me, Newcastle are kind of like the person that no one wants to date right now because no one is really signing for them. Almost all of their signings have begun talks and then signed with other clubs and just had been hijacked. So yeah, things are not looking good with Newcastle right now. So they're my stock falling.
Great call. That was on my list. Yeah. Mash, who's on your list?
Yeah, Chervon stole it out of my mouth. That was going to be my pick. Anthony Gordon was probably the only good thing I saw in that game. Please, can we steal him? Because Martinelli upsets me so much. So if I have to pick another though, okay, can I just plus one, Chervon, actually, because to me that's the odds.
So we've got a bit of a stock market crash in Newcastle because we got two investors running away. Dude, are we making it a full market collapse?
So I mean, one of mine was also stolen, and it was from you, Tim. West Ham. They had a very poor end to the last season, and haven't really sparked the imagination with any new signings or exciting signings. I question their ambition in terms of what they want to do in the Premier League. Do they just want to survive? Very uninspiring, I think. Yeah, as you mentioned, if they're not careful, there'll be a championship side come the 2026-27 season.
Yeah, I agree. And Kudus had a really bad season last season in terms of numbers and in overall sort of the eye test. Doesn't look great when you arrive at Spurs and you immediately bang. It does sort of suggest maybe West Ham was the problem and not Kudus after all, which matches what we all sort of thought about Kudus before he arrived at West Ham in the first place. He immediately looked good, and gradually, as West Ham have looked worse and worse, so has his performances. Yeah, I've got them squarely on my list. I also have. I thought Burnley looked terrible. I thought Wolves looked terrible. And I was actually quite disappointed with Villa. I know, obviously, they went down to 10 men, but I did bet on them a bit for my Fantasy Premier League as well, which is going to neatly segue into our very short FPL check-in. I'd put Watkins.
I was so weak by Konza.
Yeah, it's not a good decision. But I always feel with Emery teams that there's a bit of an expiry date, like milk that you leave out the fridge. But there we go. We'll see if that ends up coming to be this season. Let's do a quick FPL check-in. So the Pat and Play Podcast League, thank you to the folks who have joined. A bit of a reminder that if you haven't yet, the entrance is still open for the first 3 game weeks of the season, and then we will lock that. We have, for game week 1, Tino with the team Ghost Falcons is currently in the lead with 76 points, 5 points above second place, which is Umpendulo's Black Pearl. Love the name there. Clearly not a great week for most of the people on this podcast. Chervon may have made the correct move to get the heck away from this silly game, but I saw Tim in the top 3 and immediately thought that might be me, but no, definitely not. I'm actually near the bottom 3. I'm going to start with Man versus the Machine. So we actually have a machine in the league this season, which is the Pat and Play podcast account joined the FPL season, but all of the picks were chosen by ChatGPT. So that's and that's going to happen all season long. Now, ChatGPT also made the interesting decision to triple captain in game week 1. So ChatGPT asked me whether I wanted it to be chaotic or structured for the season, and I said that kind of defeats the purpose of you deciding everything about this team. And so it went with, I'm going to be chaotic. And I think the best decision is to go with a triple captain of Cole Palmer for game week 1.
Poor decision.
Wow. That did not work out. Yet, the machine is at 65 points. So Pat and Play AI ends with 65 points this game week. The closest human to the AI at this table this week is Mash on 49 points.
Yay.
16 points.
Dude, and I had such a bad week.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well,
it's Ekitike. It's my Ekitike pick that
it
saved
did
me.
save you. Didn't save me or Jude. Jude, very, very bad week for you, mate, on 40 points. 1 point ahead of me on 39 points. Captaining Bowen, not the wisest move I've ever made in my life, but yeah.
You're a troll. You're actually a troll.
I still have 3 players to play as of this recording.
Okay.
There's a game that is ongoing. I hit a bench boost in game week 1. Thought it was going to
Chaotic Jude
play out nicely, but it didn't, unfortunately. And I'm also ruining some decisions that I made before game week 1. I had Semenyo and Chris Wood in my draft. But, sometimes you make decisions you have to live with.
Yeah. I had Haaland, I had Salah, I had everyone in my first draft as well.
I feel so unprepared for this podcast in the sense that I forgot that I had Tarkovsky in my team, and I'm just opening fantasy and seeing that he's on 8 points. So please, Everton, can you hold on to that clean sheet? They are in the 76th minute at the moment, and it is a very boring 0-0 draw whoever at the Premier League thought it was a good idea to have Leeds versus Everton
Another one
on our Monday night content. I'm not quite sure. But okay, are we... I mean, it's definitely a bit of an early differential or delta week where you've got some people on massive points and some people really, really suffering, me included. Any early transfers made or being considered, Jude or Mash?
Not at the moment. I'm going to fuel this team that I have for at least another 2 game weeks and then assess from there. I don't want to be too erratic because I mean I kind of back the players that I've picked. I want to see how they perform in the next 2 game weeks.
Yeah, I have Dallo in my team, and I thought he was chosen to start against us, but I don't think he's going to be the first choice going forward. So I probably need to, because I mean the Ballon d'Or candidate is sitting on bench, so he's probably going to start next game. Yeah, I need a replacement. And then Frimpong got only 1 point. I don't want to be rash, same like Jude, but maybe 6. I mean, a 6 mil is a lot to have someone be on rotation as a defender. You can definitely find solid defenders for less than that. So I might consider that shit.
Yeah, I think it is important to act rationally, wait for potential injuries and all that information, and then make your transfer just before game week 2. And that's why I transferred in Ekitike before the end of the Liverpool game. So that is going to be, hopefully that bangs, because Bowen, I don't know, I watched that West Ham and felt like I was watching the end of days for that club. I'm not willing to back Bowen even a single more minute of football. Let's move from...
You did it to yourself.
I did do it to myself. Although, to be fair, he was one of the most reliable players last season. 20 goals and assists in the league. And he was one of the few people who he didn't often double up on a week and then go for several blanks. He was one of the few people who was very, very consistent in only 1 goal or 1 assist. But that's really nice for fantasy. I love people who just give 7 to 9 points every week. But it's not going to happen this season. And I'll probably get that wrong. And then in the next episode, we've got a Bowen hat trick that we've got to talk about. But there we go. Let's skip ahead to game of the week. We're going to do another episode of Who Am I? In the last episode, Sal had an opportunity to make a bit of a comeback with Balin and Linda joining the lineup, but he didn't. So Sal is definitely the one who is suffering the most in this game. Jude is by far our standout hero so far. So Mash or Chervon, please, can you win this week? We need to take...
I feel like I suck at this game.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm on Jude's team.
There's no teams, bro.
Jude, let's do this, bro. Let's do this.
Let's see where we get to. Hopefully this one's a little bit... I'm going to give a hint. It is another player from between 1990 and 2010. But it's a big name. All right. Let's start off with then. So in the usual format, I'm going to name the club that they played for in order, and you shout out when you've got a guess for who it is. If you get it wrong, you're not allowed to make another guess until one of the other hosts guesses and gets it wrong. So starting off, first club, Brescia in Italy. After Brescia, he moves to his first big club, Inter Milan. After a stint at Inter Milan, he does the unforgivable and he moves to city rivals AC Milan. A bit of a Figo move there, if anyone remembers the Barcelona to Real Madrid move where a pig's head ended up getting thrown at him at a corner. Anyway, iconic. After the AC Milan stint, he does the unthinkable and goes to yet another Italian rival and ends up at Juventus.
Is it Perlo?
It is Perlo. Jude, 3 out of 3. I was hoping we weren't going to get to the next club, which is New York City, because then it really starts to get... you have his managerial career listed here. I'm just glad we never got to... he managed Fatih Karagumruk. Yeah, I was really hoping I wouldn't need to have to say that in anger, or without being able to at least put a prelude for my failure beforehand. Jude, come on! I'm gonna have to make a different game. You know, maybe we do football darts next week.
As long as it's not like flags of the world either, because you'll kill us at that too.
Yeah, none of that. Maybe football 501 for the next episode. All right, we're gonna call it there. Before we get to the end of the week, I'm actually going to skip chant of the week, and I'm going to nominate one as host privileges. I'm going to seize autocratic rule here and say that for this week, I think I'm going to nominate Semenyo for chant of the week. I think, given what happened to him this weekend, he showed outstanding. Well, I don't know if I'd be able to do what he did, and what a personality he has, what resilience he has. So shout out to Semenyo. Shout out to everybody who got to this point in the podcast. Don't forget to download the episode when you do listen to it and then delete it afterwards. But we got to get those downloads. We are chasing #1 podcast for football in South Africa on the Apple podcast leaderboard. We're in second place. We want to get to #1. So help us get there. But yeah, thank you as always for your support, and see you on episode 5 on Friday morning. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
You got the power to know you're indestructible. Always believe it. Semenyo, no.